Na 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 never, na 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 never, na 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 never ending adventure.
Let's go, buddy. We are getting into the episode this week. My name is Ned.
And I'm Russell Tyndall. Welcome, fellow travelers.
And we are here to talk about Adventure Time and Neptr.
Neptr, yeah, man. He's a cute little robot boy. This is Never Ending Adventure Podcast. We're talking all things Adventure Time over the past, 14. This is our 15th episode.
Yeah.
And we're just diving into, I've never seen the show before. Ned loves Adventure Time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm slowly getting there. This episode gave me some good body giggles.
Yes. It had so much.
Tell me giggles.
It's so much good content in this episode, not with just like the jokes and the one-liners, but I was going to drop out the factoid that, lay it on me, we get 2 introductions to really important characters of the show this week.
Some characters I think that we've seen before, but we didn't really meet.
Yes. The first one, we'll start with Neptr. First one in the episode. We do meet him for the first time.
What's it stand for?
It stands for Never Ending Pie Throwing Robot.
Yeah, it's pretty good. What if you created Neptr, what are you naming it after?
The one that throws pies, or like
the one that throws
machine?
pies. If you got another acronym for us.
Oh man, I didn't come in
On
prepped
the
for
cusp.
this. On the cusp. It would probably be, I'm all about alliteration, so it'd probably be like Phil the pie projectile.
All right, note to self, don't put Ned on the spot. I was thinking more of just like, I don't know, just like from the letters. Doesn't matter who cares. Anyways,
Do you not have one? You're gonna ask me that
question? No, I
question?
don't have one. That was off the cusp.
Oh man. Well, give me a quick recap of everything like episode related that you like. Walk me through your experience in this episode.
I learned a lot about how the prank and what is a prank, what's not a prank, and what is allowed. I feel like the rules of prankdom were really stretched on this episode.
Yeah. But the first one off the bat that I noticed in that realm was pranking and entering is okay, but breaking and entering is not.
That was a good one.
That was a good one.
And
I have a great story on that one.
Okay, go ahead.
A pranking and entering experience that's happened with me. I was not the...
so like you... like going into someone's house that you weren't necessarily supposed to be there at the time.
It was when I lived with a bunch of guys, and Mike, I'm sorry,
Was this a Pine View
it was,
story?
Yeah, in the stucco mansion.
Oh no, okay, not Pine View.
Not
Cool.
a Pine View story, but we lived in the stucco mansion and lived with like 10 other guys, and one of my best buddies now just like shows up one day to our house, runs in our buddy's Mike's room, and grabs all of his shorts. This kid was just so, and again, Mike, I apologize. You were the victim of this. I know you got really mad, but Connor took all of his shorts away from him and basically left him shortless, like in September in Georgia. So it was hot. So wearing pants was not fun. So, and I think that they just brought a trash bag full of his shorts to like one of our chapter meetings and like dumped them out.
Dude, there's some, man, that reminds me. The Pine View thing I was thinking of was, and this wasn't even the pranking story I had planned for this episode.
Yeah, give me your prank story.
Well, so I didn't do this. I don't even remember who it was that was doing this, but someone in our very large friend group, humble brag about all my friends. Was sneaking in, and this is just totally not cool. Pine View was this really cool neighborhood where we knew a lot of people that lived there. And so you could almost go to any one of the duplexes in Pine View and kind of know somebody.
Yeah.
And this guy was going around to people we knew and would like sneak into their bedroom at night and wake them up while he's in their room. And that was like his joke thing with some of our friends. Man, I would lose it. Like that is so not okay with me. I would be scarred for the rest of my life. The other thing, the freaking balloons, man, the balloons in this episode, they're who I was referring to. They pushed the boundary for me a little bit when Finn walks out of the mountain and just kind of falls. And then they're like, oh, pranked you.
I have his wallet.
If anyone made me think I was falling to my death, that is past pranking.
I don't know, man. Sometimes that like a good prankster. I mean, think about like Punk'd and Ashton Kutcher and back in those days. Like,
yeah, but he wasn't like, oh, you're gonna die. Like
now, some of them, yeah.
Really?
If you go back and watch some of those episodes, that was like life-threatening situations.
There are definitely some like YouTube videos of people like especially when they're jumping off of a bridge and they're bungee jumping, and then people throw a fake rope. Man, I would lose it. You wouldn't be my friend anymore. Yeah. Honestly, like you just would not be my friend.
But let's be
anymore.
real. Finn's fallen off of probably worse things before.
Yeah, he probably has, and I think he would survive it. Just
and remember he falls off the ceiling in this episode and just whoop, like slips right off the ice. Probably same thing would happen down the ice mountain.
There'd be some excuse for him not getting seriously hurt.
And then great last pranking and entering story before we get more into the episode. I bought a chicken on Craigslist and broke into a house and left it in a guy's shower one night.
Did you really?
Yeah, and then they kept the chicken for like 3 or 4 months afterwards.
Oh man, I think one of my favorite college pranks. This is harmless. Is what is it? Not baking soda, baking powder? No,
baking soda and vinegar. Yeah,
no, just baking soda when someone's showering. Dumping a whole bag of baking soda on them.
That's just like I did throw a firework into a guy's shower one time, and that was, I don't know, maybe pushing some boundaries.
This is so much further. I was going to tell a story about the ultimate sit-up, but this is so much further. Ned, you were a wild man.
Yeah,
with pranks.
It was shenanigans back in my early 20s, that's for sure. But
the Ice King must have got his hand on you.
For all the listeners, please leave. I want to hear best prank stories and comments. If you can comment below, if you can send us a DM on anything, I want to hear best prank stories that you got. And we can share them out on our socials and everything like that.
I think what we might do, we talked about this last episode. I think we might look into getting a alternate email address just for specific, hey, here's a listener request or listener question, like so that we can identify it as you kind of want us to talk about it on the podcast. I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that and get to it.
We'll get there.
Yeah, maybe next episode we'll have that.
In the episode, man, we start out, Jake's got a bag full of butter and just tosses it at Finn. Kind of a lame prank, but Finn, it apparently awakens his prank demon that lives in his pits. And I was, it took me like 3 times watching the episode, and I was like,
his physical pits, his physical armpits, or the pits of his soul?
You know what? I thought it was kind of like a joke, but you'll see in the next episode. I'm going to give you a 1 episode spoiler drop. So the next episode, Finn has a fear demon that lives in his belly button.
Whoa.
So it doesn't put it beyond any scope of reality that he might have a physical prank demon that lives in his pits that we just don't know about.
So that's cool. I'm looking forward to hearing and learning a little bit more about Finn and how Finn, his inner psyche works.
Yeah, we know he's swallowed a robot. Now he's got demons in his pits and his belly button. So we're gonna learn a lot about Finn.
I know we need to bring back the robot voice at some point.
Oh gosh, yeah,
never.
We'll get there. We'll get there. It's all developing real quickly, but
and we got to learn Neptr. Man, he's an adorable little robot who happened to be made on the right side or the right kind of robot.
Yeah,
Ben totally just
hopes.
Gives up. He hopes. He puts in some electronic cords and cables and puts an arm on him, and it's just like, I don't know, it's not working.
I just want to know where that lightning strike came from, because it's the end of the episode where Ice King's final lightning bolt completes Neptr. So that's kind of assuming that the first lightning bolt wasn't from the Ice King. So what was magic about that lightning bolt that literally brought like a sentient being to life?
I wonder, we haven't learned of any sort of a god or any sort of a greater being in the verse?
Not yet. Yeah.
Not yet. So there might be something out there.
Yeah.
It's not the owl. It's not the.
You've met one. He's one of them.
He is one of them.
Yeah. Okay. And there's a couple of different, like, beyond. They're not necessarily gods but they're like way more angelic, powerful type figures. Yeah.
So we learned about Neptr. Who was the other character that you were?
I was going to tell you, this was our official introduction to Gunter.
Gunter, my lovely.
Oh, dude, he was my lovely too.
Give me some sugar, baby.
And that's the soundbite. Gunter was adorable, dude. He or she or it, I don't know.
I think it's kind of vague.
Is it a she? I think it's
sometimes
to be a she, maybe?
I would imagine that they're guys, but spoiler drop, like Gunter lays an egg later on.
Spoiler drop.
And so you're like, are they female? But they leave the whole like they're almost like gender fluid penguins.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll figure it out, or not. Who cares? So part of the reason why it's Gunter is my lovely is because my sister growing up, and to this day, randomly says, "Wah." Like if something is not going her way in a conversation or someone's being a goofball or whatever, that's her go-to is "Wah." And I'm just like, what is this? It's great. I thought she made it up.
Did she get it from Adventure Time?
Yeah, definitely.
Heck yeah. That's awesome.
I didn't know that. And so this is kind of my ode to my sister. And in the words of Sandy Cheeks, he has such a way with words. Yeah, man. Gunter's great. And I'm very curious about Gunter. I think there might be something more, or I don't even know if there's something more to him. I just think there is, like, I want to know on what level his intelligence lies.
Ooh, you're grasping at the right straws. I love it. I love it. Hold on.
I don't even know. This is just me feeling like every creature of all kinds, like inanimate beings and stuff like that turn animate or whatever. It's like they all have a pretty solid intelligence level. Mm-hmm. And then here you have why are the penguins so silly? And so like you get a worm who's like all about hanging out in a guitar and just like lives its life. But for some reason, Gunter is a penguin.
Oh, he's smart. We have a lot of good Gunter episodes coming up. We have not only like ones where he's featured, one where he's like one of the main characters. We also have like origin stories of and then like you see Ice King, he'll call all of his penguins. He's like Gunty, Gunthi, Gunter, Gunther.
Well, Ice King is totally abusing him.
Yeah.
You know, to some degree. He's like, he could have just sculpted a table out of his ice, you know, but I love when he's shaming him in front of the mirror or whatever.
Yeah. He's like
look at these arms. Fat. Daddy's little fatty. I need that on a t-shirt, by the way.
Daddy's little fatty.
Yeah. Daddy's little fatty. We need to make those as shirts if someone hasn't done that already.
That's awesome.
But Gunter is crying. Gunter, it's like he has animated tears.
He's got an emotional capacity, and that's where the question of intelligence comes from. Yeah.
Which is exactly why I was kind of thinking about it. I guess the Isopede doesn't necessarily seem incredibly intelligent, but it's got lasers.
Yeah, he's got lasers. The weird bull thing had like intestines inside of it.
I felt like that was just like one of those like traps, like a robot trap.
It was kind of weird. So I was like hoping to find some sort of explanation on that beast, but I didn't find any.
That's fascinating just based off of me saying like robot trap. Like we are experimenting a little bit in this episode, and BMO too. I'm sure we will get there because BMO's in this episode.
BMO's in this episode. No vocals, right? BMO doesn't say anything.
Doesn't say a word.
Yeah.
But we're experimenting a little bit with like artificial intelligence and how some robots are intelligent beings in this universe and other ones just happen to be there and around and have sort of a purpose from the creator.
The interesting thing is BMO does have like a creator. BMO is like a truly like true robot. You know, but Neptr is like this sentient being, which I think is important because it's not just like program. Obviously, the computer chip is just taped on the outside of him.
Okay, so
you know,
actually, I take that back. BMO's creator has not been specifically stated yet. We don't know that it is Finn or not.
We don't know that.
I totally was thinking of Neptr.
Oh, you were thinking
when I said that.
I'm thinking about like Neptr has Finn is the creator.
Father number one.
Father number two
is the Ice King.
The Ice King.
Sort of.
So
he's like an adopted father who helps him along his journey.
Well, I don't want to get too much into that because that leads into a lot of the deeper discussion we'll leave for after our break because it's girthy, that's for sure.
Girthy that's the name of another penguin?
No, Girthy, Gunter.
Girthy is a great name for a penguin.
That's funny, man. Well, some great facts also is that
Nettie's factoid.
Nettie's factoid is coming at you. Well, the episode was originally called Ice King and Son. So he's not he is definitely a father of Neptr.
Interesting.
And
or he
then,
perceives himself as, and I think Neptr certainly does as well for part of the episode.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that happened really quickly in Ice King's imagination zone, all the princesses that pop up. I think of those princesses, we recognize like 8 of them, but there's like 14 new princesses. I didn't list them all out. I figured that was overkill. But I took note there is like muscle princesses in there. I think crab princesses in there. So, and a lot of them do have like repeats in episodes, which is great.
The multiple headed one really bothered me.
Oh yeah, that one.
Her.
If it's the one I'm thinking about, that princess comes in for like an episode. If it's
kind of like a blobby looking,
yeah,
with a lot of heads, or I don't know. Not nearly as fun as like the balloons that seem to float together as a crew, as a core crew, and have their own faces, yet don't really separate, except for when they're going to die. When
they separate.
They're going to the mesosphere. They're like, finally, we're free.
We can die.
We can die.
That was so dark.
It was. But again, that's like the artificial intelligence. I mean, the balloons aren't robots, but still, like the things that shouldn't be personified being personified.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in the Adventure Time universe that are sentient beings, and then there's a lot of things that are AI type beings.
I guess my mind is on that train right now because of the Rick and Morty season 5 episode 2 that just came out this past week.
Oh no, I've only watched the first one.
Bro, so good. Yeah, it's a great episode, and also just in general, like it happened to be on a very similar topic. So I was watching some YouTube videos about the Rick and Morty episode because, of course, I was incredibly interested in it. And they were talking about Isaac Asimov, which happens to kind of coincide with what we're talking about today a whole lot. I mean, so he's the writer of iRobot. He was a biochemical engineer at professor, I believe, at Boston University. I mean, just like crazy smart guy, wrote tons of books. I mean,
yeah, like all sci-fi.
Just Wikipedia books. Him. Yeah. One of the I think the 3 fathers of sci-fi or something.
Yeah.
I mean, an ungodly amount of books this dude's written, but he coined the 3 laws of robotics, which I thought that was just kind of cool. I almost wonder if we could figure out how this plays into this episode to some degree. To go through them real fast. Number 1 is a robot may not injure a human being or through an action allow a human being to come to harm. Number 2 is a robot must obey orders given to it by a human being, except such orders that conflict with rule number 1 or the first law. And then number 3 is a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first 2 laws. Mm-hmm. So then also, I mean, freaking Isaac Asimov also is a guy who felt like robots would eventually always turn against their creators, which almost goes against the laws. But it seems like in his books, from what I was hearing or what I was reading, was he takes those first 3 laws and then he figures out how one of those could be amplified to an nth degree to where in the end, no matter what, the robot always turns against its creator. Yeah. Like there's no way around that. And so in this episode, I wrote some episode rules, and you can just let me know if you kind of feel like they apply or if it makes sense. So pranking is not injuring is rule number 1, because it goes with law number 1, which they can't make harm on human beings.
Mm-hmm. Only person that got harmed was the centipede.
Sure. Though I do have a thought, not a theory. Jake and Ice King are dead. Super dead. After this episode, they just got poisoned by pies.
Oh, I think he can bake whatever pie like he wants to at any time.
I don't know. He's still got that little evil thing from Ice King.
From the Ice King's evil gene.
He might have just killed both of them. And also you see the Ice King has the hallucination or his imagination zone. That might be his final imagination before he dies. Is Ice King out of the series?
He's out of commission. Well, he's not.
He's completely out of the series.
Yeah, y'all. Not a spoiler alert.
Spoiler drop.
Is he's still in the show after this. He does not die.
Well, law number 2 is ignore the second law or the second half of Law 3, this is getting, I didn't realize how conflicted all this stuff gets, or how convoluted this gets.
Russell got
Ignore
in his
the
own head.
second half of Law 3 if it conflicts with your purpose and your creator's wishes. For instance, throwing pies at the Ice King and Jake. And then rule number 3 that I wrote was robots can use critical thinking to notate the difference between right and wrong. And that's kind of where I stopped with that, because it was just like,
with
why
number
am I doing this?
3, what do you mean by that?
It
In this
seems like
episode
in this
specifically.
episode, as far as artificial intelligence, like I was trying to figure out on what level, where in the scale of artificial intelligence do these robots that we're seeing fit. And for me, Neptr, it seems like he's able to learn, he's able to identify what is okay and what is not okay. And that's what I mean by notating the difference between right and wrong via critically thinking. And critically thinking, if he can critically think, then, you know, I mean, I feel like that opens up a universe of things that he can do.
Mm-hmm. Well, he has to make the decision on who he's going to kind of side with at the end. And that's
it's true.
You know, if it was following a true law of robotic, you know, has to follow the order of its creator, that it's like a conflict because he has two creators, you know?
Does, and he chooses between them. But then I think the issue I have with that is he seems to be programmed to prank, and that is his primary programming. And so he chooses what he knows, which is the only thing he knows. He wasn't programmed to collect princesses. He wants to, or he thinks he wants to, or something. But I almost wonder if he's ever, I mean, if he ever comes up again, it'd be really interesting to see if he can do anything other than prank in the long run.
Yeah. And I want to put a pin there, because I think that brings up some good points about like programming versus purpose. And I think that's where I'm going to get a little deep on this episode.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, I know I need a quick brain breather, you know, before I start diving into the psyche of our pasts and our purposes and stuff like that.
Well,
so let's have a quick break.
We've got a catchy little terribly sung advertisement for y'all this week.
Neptr is a lovely boy. Oh, such a lovely toy. Get yourself a Neptr and prank so much better. He just wants to love you, maybe one arm to hug you, then you prank till you die with a poisonous pie. Now he's my little Neptr guy.
Yeah, rock and roll. He's got blisters on his fingers. Welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
That was a lovely ditty from DJ Cowboy Hat.
Yeah, it was. No, I was trying to think of a bit to start this off with, but DJ Cowboy Hat crushed it. He's everyone's favorite based artist. New in town, I would say. I mean,
new in town.
Well, he's new, but you know, he might be appearing. He might have wrote and recorded our theme song and all that stuff. So.
Yes. So officially, this is canon. It's now DJ Cowboy Hat in the house.
And by now, we mean it's always been.
Yeah, of course it has been. We had this planned out from the beginning, didn't we?
We knew we would come across in our adventure some sort of a walking bard, a traveling bard,
a traveling bard.
And he just happened to be straight from the universe. And maybe one day we'll have him on and we can do a little deep dive in the.
Yeah,
DJ
maybe we
Cowboy
do
Hat.
like a musical special episode.
No
all
one wants
improv
that.
8-line songs.
No, I sing enough on this podcast. No one wants a musical special.
Yeah. Well, man, so I know we cut off last time when we were about to get real nice and deep and dirty in this, and pulling out what we saw in terms of the writers getting real deep in this episode. You didn't really, if you didn't catch it, that last little Ice King bit of the show makes you realize that this was kind of meant to be deeper, and it was meant to be very like, what do I feel? How do I feel about this? And what I kind of
from the get-go, it kind of was. I mean, Neptr straight up are his first words. Why, creator? Why does it please you to watch me struggle? Is that his first words or almost?
Almost his first words. That's like their first interaction. And
Real
it's
some
deep.
existential dread from our little robot friend from the get-go.
Yeah, and I drew so much of a parallel to this episode when we were talking about Princess Bubblegum and her creation of the candy people. And I think it's a commonality through Adventure Time of like creators versus their creation and the creation's purpose. And it's almost like you have free will, but you still live in this box that the creators put you in, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of different characters in this show, I think, struggle with that. You see it with like candy people. For all my avid fans out there, it happens with root beer / dirt beer guy down the road. It's happened with the candy people. It happens with rattle balls. It happens with Neptr in this episode specifically.
Yeah, which is kind of what I was chiming on a little bit earlier in this episode even. It's just like, I feel like he's just built to prank. And I wonder if he has free will outside of that. It seems like he does, but
yeah. I would imagine
keeps going with the prank. And
well, you brought up a good point that made me even go beyond what I had brought to the table today. And you brought it up in the beginning of the podcast and made me think about it, about like our programming versus our purpose.
Interesting.
And so if I were to expand on this way aggressively, I would think anything like our programming could be our upbringing, our surroundings, what your parents have taught you. Did your dad force you to play a sport? Were you forced into learning an instrument? Were you told you had to go to college, or life, was not going to work out for you? That's programming. So you get programmed a certain way. And, like Neptr, sometimes like the Neptr does end up choosing his programming, but obviously had a conflict with it too, because his purpose, which was instilled in him by the Ice King's like zap, because the Ice King says, I want you to fulfill where I, did not succeed, which is also a kind of thing like of our parents.
Father issues.
Yeah, like father
He's
issues
got
of like,
father
I want you
issues.
to succeed. And then the whole show, man, we see so many characters that have daddy issues.
Well, it makes me wonder if Penny does. Maybe because we talked about nurture versus nature a little bit on the City of Thieves episode as well. Are we just getting into like, did Penny have father issues, which makes her want to steal? And maybe her dad was the king of thieves. I don't know, but
yeah,
different episode, different theories for a different episode. Mm-hmm. But that is really fascinating. I mean, it even reminded me of the Rick and Morty pass the butter robot.
Yeah.
A little bit where
what is my purpose?
What is you pass butter? Or no, sorry, I have this mixed up. What is my purpose? You pass butter. Oh my God.
Okay.
It's like that's what he was made for,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all he can do, and it's like Neptr.
Yeah. So so maybe I got it flip flop. Do you think that his purpose is to prank and throw pies, and
I think so.
His Ice King programming was
his programming. He was programmed for the purpose of pranking. So that is his purpose, and that was his programming. But then, as living as an artificial intelligent being that seems to have some sort of a level of critical thinking, he is almost going past that and almost saying, what do I want? Mm-hmm. He's almost asking himself, what do I desire? And his desire was it really princesses? Was it really collecting princesses? Or was that a second level of programming? What the Ice King does to him is he takes a half-built, like fully alive, but half-built, half-completed robot, strikes it with lightning, and then gives it a little bit of himself. Mm-hmm. Like the battery that he puts in happens to have a little bit of coding for evil. And past that, it's up to the robot to decide, and then he has his programming, which he's programmed for pranking, with a hint of evil, which we see with his evil or his, poison pies.
The poison.
And different little like, what was the creepy thing that he said to Finn at one point? And Finn calls him out for it. I want to collect all the princesses or something like that.
Yeah, something like, well, he said like, even when it was like, I hit him with boysenberry and poison berries.
Yeah. So, but then he gets to almost choose. He almost gets to choose what he really desires, but what he chooses is just what he was initially programmed for.
Okay.
So that's what's fascinating to me.
But that's a good point to be like, you do have your purpose, and you do have to be self-aware and end up making your own decisions, even when you have the pressures of your creators, your parents, pushing their insecurities, the things that they didn't complete or do in their life, and then go out and be like, this is my purpose. I've figured out my purpose, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to prank even though it upsets my creator.
And that's what separates us as humans and Finn from Neptr. But I think if this was a Rick and Morty episode, what you would see is his desire to prank and be a little evil would probably escalate to him eventually pranking the world and trying to kill all humans.
Yeah, some sort of start out neutral evil.
I'm doing it for you, Finn. Why aren't you happy with what I am doing? Just like the businessmen, where the businessmen, like, they had a purpose, they had a plan, they were doing what Finn and Jake wanted, but then they felt they could do it more efficiently, And so and that's what I would think would probably happen if this was a darker cartoon. But to your point, to circle back just a little bit, we do see some growth and some really deep moments in this episode with the Ice King. I think he grows a little bit. I do think there is a moment for Ice King where he feels a deep longing for Neptr when Neptr's taken away, and he goes, "What is this feeling?" And he's curious about what's happening to him, and then he's like, I want you to be my son, and I want you to be like the best part of me, or be what I can't be, So you see Neptr kind of like, he's like longing for some sort of a connection that he's not getting in his life. And he sheds a tear when he's imagining him and Neptr, sitting over a sunset, and he wants to be loved. And then it almost feels like this is getting interesting. So when the lightning bolt goes to Neptr to strike him,
it dodges Finn.
It dodges Finn, which is really weird because the Ice King is Finn's big enemy, the big bad guy right now, right? But he refuses. That was his moment, his chance to kill him. He keeps refusing to actually kill and get rid of Finn. He freezes him and then just walks past him to go to the thing that's more important to him. He manipulates the lightning beam to dodge Finn entirely to hit the innocent bystander, which is kind of a silly concept. But I think I almost wonder if it's because, like, the Ice King is to Finn as Joker is to Batman.
Yeah, and I was gonna bring that up in terms of, now you've seen it. We talked about probably in that episode 2 or 3 when we saw the Ice King for the first time. I said, man, he's deep. It goes way beyond. He's just evil and wants to kidnap princesses. He does have this deep innate desire for connection, and right now he connects with people because he's so crazy by kidnapping princesses and gets attention. And that brings Finn to the picture as an enemy. So I think he enjoys fighting Finn. He enjoys the conflict because it's just somebody interacting with him and gives him like a purpose, So the introduction of Neptr in this one, it's like the first time Ice King's been presented with something besides a nemesis and a princess to kidnap. It's like this, it hits him like a lightning bolt, pun intended, that like, oh my gosh, I could have a son. I could have a connection that is something that he's never even like conceived before.
Yeah, but he can't have a son because ain't no princess going for Ice King.
No, that's exactly. He's going to have to create. Well, and then like you see it, he obviously also is treating his penguins in this episode kind of like little minions, where it's almost it's like there isn't enough personality and connection in the penguins for him to have that bond and that like relationship he wants.
Here's a weird, like, joking theory, not really a theoretically speaking moment, but I like to imagine in my imagination zone, the Ice King and Finn not only are enemies and are fighting each other in real life constantly, but I notice they're both gamers. And I like to think that they are also, whether they know it or not, they like see each other's gamer tag and they're just constantly gaming against each other.
So
like outside of the real life fighting, I like to imagine that Ice King and Finn just happen to be also fighting on their little
video games.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I think that's probably why they had that little bit in there, is because this episode, you're bringing up points that are like opening up Pandora's box for me.
Open it up as much as you want. Just spoiler drop
at the beginning. No, like the Pandora's box of things I didn't think about, and then you're pulling out these points, and I'm like, yeah, they pin Finn and Ice King against each other in this episode. The two creators that want the creation to follow them. Or
two daddies. That's what I like.
two daddies.
I think it was the two daddies.
But at the beginning of the episode, you do, like Finn gets pranked by Jake. Ice King gets pranked by Finn. They're both playing video games. Like there's all this stuff that you start to see that like maybe there's more similarities between Ice King and Finn than they even let off. And
there certainly seems to be some connections there, and I don't think it has anything to do with the family lineage or anything like that. I think it just kind of happens to be that they are very similar in who they are as people, and they're figuring it out. And even Finn, I mean, we going back to the episode where he takes on the little goo boy. What was his name?
In which episode?
The episode where the goo boy finds them. They just burned down the town.
Oh, the Jiggler.
The Jiggler, yeah. Baby Mama Juice, whatever I call it.
Whatever, yeah. The episode's name is like
Jiggle Boy, Baby Mama Juice.
Jiggle Boy, Dance a Lot, Baby Mama Juice.
There you go. Yeah. Like we talked about him maybe having issues with his parenting and with his parents, or maybe daddy issues himself. And then we see him here, like kind of the first steps of maybe trying to be a fatherly type figure for something or for someone. And Jake doesn't need him to do that. Jake is pretty like on his level as far as like who's in charge, or what. I mean, Finn's in charge. Finn is the main adventurer, if you will, and Jake plays a little bit of a sidekick role.
Jake goes and takes day-long naps.
But Jake takes day-long naps. That's the second time he's done that. He did that during the wizarding episode as well. I mean, Jake is constantly kind of, well, I'm going to do my own thing. And then when you need me to save you or be a wise kind of like Obi-Wan-esque type character, he'll do that occasionally for Finn. But that's just interesting. It is opening up a lot of like what's going to happen next. I really want to know what's going on next.
Well, there's a lot of like in this whole show we deal with like parenting issues, and a lot of like we learn the characters. We meet Ice King for the first time. We meet LSP for the first time, and so much of what we learn going down the road further and further is that almost. I'm literally thinking about almost every character now is that they are this byproduct of a flawed upbringing or just a normal upbringing, which means that there's scars, there's molding, there's things that happen from their parents and or past relationships that are the way they are today.
Are there many characters that seem from this point right now, or you could honestly say in the future, anyone who seems to have a pretty good childhood, pretty good upbringing is pretty normal? I think I would almost say Princess Bubblegum, but she's got so many issues. She's evil. Yeah. There's no chance that she had a perfect upbringing. Lumpy Space Princess seems to have pretty good parents and seem to be pretty on top of it. But then that plays into my whole thoughts on like maybe they weren't born lumpy, and being lumpy seems to be a curse anyways, and I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, you saw that she is like the typical teen and fighting her parents, and that's why she's all rebellious, and that's why you'll learn soon she leaves Lumpy Space to go live in Oo as a rebellion.
No, she's a runaway.
She's a stowaway in the land of Oo, and
stupid.
So that one,
LSP.
like I think that if you're asking about any character that had the non-scarred upbringing, is Jake, and he's almost the only one that really has an at peace with his true parents, and
he seems to have pretty cool parents.
Yeah, and his parents are so cool. Like, and you do see that like more of anything, there is some issues with his parents, and really with I almost dropped a big spoiler. I won't do that, but.
Yeah, I still feel like it's such a weird line that we're towing with like what is a good spoiler drop and what isn't a good spoiler drop.
I can't do that one. So that was not. I almost like dropped a bad one. But
can you say something for fans that love the show and have seen the show and know where you're going? Just I'll even plug my ears. And
gosh, no, because you're gonna listen to the record of this.
That's true. All right, fine.
Oh man, but
we're good.
Yeah, that was so going back, gosh, that was a good tangent and
that was a
purposeful tangent. But because my thoughts and my deep thoughts on this episode were about like programming and your purpose, and the creator that creates you and imposes their own will upon you, and then you have to have like the free will in order to defy that and fulfill your purpose that lives within inside you, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I got some random thoughts. I just really love the book. The book was not the Enchiridion, right?
No.
It looked like a different cover. But that junk was so funny.
Yeah, I love that good. It was it's such a quick part of the episode. It was a warship and it was like taco.
A taco, yeah. Yeah, the words were so different from the images on the other side. And then eventually it became the words were different from the images, which were also different from what Finn actually says. You know, so it was just like the pie is like, yo, what up? And then
yo, what up?
The best is the last part is a nerd is what the page says. And it's a girl playing video games. And then Finn for some reason goes, a young girl in love.
A young girl in love. Well, he gets cut off. So who knows? It was like, maybe he was going to say a young girl in love.
With video games. I don't know. I think I don't know. I mean, clearly that was the pun, was that she's not actually in love. She's just sitting at home playing video games. But I don't know. Maybe that's what Finn wants. Maybe Finn needs a video game playing girlfriend.
Yeah. We'll get there.
This show is all about everybody. Like, it's like if you're not in a relationship, you're not happy with this show. And I think that is something that I might have a little bit of beef with.
This week's beef is with the show?
I wasn't planning it. Just right now. Yeah, let's go. My beef for this week is that the show is painting slightly unnecessary expectations on the listener, on the viewer. I don't think you need to be, and by that, you definitely don't need to be in a relationship to have a successful, enjoyable, and wonderful life, and fulfilling life. But every single character in this dang show wants a significant other.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you got to give him a little bit of credit. He's 12 years old and his best buddy has Lady Rainicorn. Now we haven't really seen them hang out much, but
but should he just be picking boogers and wearing plaid shorts?
It's the beginning. He's on the cusp of the maturity and the adolescence and stuff. So
maybe that was 2006. That's just how 2006 was.
Well, you see him,
shorts.
He blushes when, he's like in the closet with Princess Bubblegum in episode 1. So like, there's like this growth thing. And he doesn't really like we've talked about, he doesn't have any crazy strong male role models in terms of like father figure and or mother figure that shows what healthy marital and or dating relationships are like. And Jake's the closest thing.
Yeah, it's a coming of age tale. And when you're coming of age,
you're told that that's what you do. You find a girlfriend and you get married and you live happily ever after.
Well, you're either physically told that or you're physically told that by your body.
By your body.
Your body tells you, I like these people now. And for me and you, Ned, it was girls are cute.
Yep.
And for other friends of mine, it was just an obsession. I mean, man, I could think of one guy who just like went, like all he would talk about was the girl that he was into and blah, blah, blah. And
I probably had a bad like 18-year-old season on that. And then I realized
yourself?
That. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Ned, I noticed, your arms are getting a little fatty, fat.
My daddy's little fat boy.
Daddy's little fatty. I'm just kidding.
Well, hit me with
your arms are not getting fat.
Hit me with your lessons,
good,
man.
You've been working out. I noticed.
I've been twerking.
Yeah, you're good.
No.
Twerking out. Twerk it.
Hit me with your lessons.
Yeah, my lessons. Only robots can mate with robots.
Where'd you pick that up from?
It's in the episode. I can't remember. It's Ice King says it at some point. I think he's like, you can get with more princesses than I can because I can't mate with robots and you can because you are a robot. So that was my first lesson is only robots can actually mate with robots.
Oh, that's so creepy.
Yeah. Well, again, there's more Rick and Morty references. Morty mates with the robot in a Rick and Morty episode. So that's not true. Come on. What are you doing, Ice King? It's all the same canon, right?
Right.
The other one is, no, actually, that's my only lesson.
That was the only lesson. That's the only thing you got out of this episode.
The next part says, I'm looking at you, Morty, which is what I just said. What's your lesson?
I got the two good ones and a serious one. First one is
man.
it's okay to prank.
Packed.
It's okay to prank and enter. You know,
It is.
we just learned that today. So
Just don't
worry.
sneak up and look at people while they're sleeping and
you
then
can
wake them up.
you can break into your neighbor's house as long as you put fake vomit on their kitchen floor. It's fine.
Yeah, it's got to be a
fine.
prank. It's got to be a prank.
You know, I also learned from the beginning of the episode a good lesson that there's nothing better than throwing a big bag full of butter at somebody.
You hated on that earlier.
I did. I think
You
it's,
totally did. I thought that was a great moment.
I'm taking a lesson from Finn. I may have thought it was bad, but if I'm following,
Yeah, he's like, what's funny about a bag of butter? I from the beginning of seeing the bag and knowing that it was filled with butter, thought it was amazing. I was like, I don't even care what he does with that. Just the fact that he has a bag of butter.
I'll keep that in the back of my mind for when I'm planning a podcast prank for you.
Okay,
Just
well,
bags of butter.
just expect pies.
Just expect poison pies in your face.
pies in your face.
And my last serious one is it is up to us to figure out our true purpose and act upon it. When there are outside forces coming in, influencing us, telling us what we need to be, telling us you got to do this. I failed at this. Make up for my lost time or lost childhood. That it really is our job to identify our purpose, be self-reflective and self-aware of that, and do our best to be what we were set out in this world to be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
I like
my
it.
that's my good lay down your head on your pillow tonight as you're listening to this podcast and have good dreams.
Yeah, and then have a little bit of a existential crisis about you not already doing that.
About your purpose. Yeah, there's always
What
a
is
little
your
bit of
purpose? That's
existential
my issue.
dread around your purpose, which we won't get into that. I'm sure that there is another episode of Adventure Time where there is existential dread that we will dive into later.
Yeah, this podcast isn't long enough for that.
No.
Man, thank you all so much for coming and checking out our podcast and listening to another episode of Never Ending Adventure.
Yeah, this was a solid one, man. I loved this episode. I think that this had everything that you've been wanting. And you were saying, I want more canonical stuff. I want more like meat and character development and like learning about Ice King and everything like that. So I think this hit the nail on the head, man.
Yeah, without even being like, it's not like this was an iconic episode, but it definitely felt a little bit along the lines of what I was hoping this show would eventually get to, at least a little bit, and touch on. And I am very excited about that.
Yeah. And next week, we're going to talk about Finn's greatest fear.
There we go.
And maybe Russell's greatest fear.
I have too many fears.
Maybe DJ Cowboy Hat's greatest fear.
He has no fears.
He is not afraid of anything.
I have a lot of fears. DJ Cowboy Hat, he mentioned it. For some reason, that's just part of his character. Part of what he does is he likes to walk around and just be like, I'm not afraid of anything.
I'm not afraid of
Yeah,
nothing.
nobody asked DJ Cowboy Hat. Nobody asked.
But again, thanks for y'all for listening. We learned this week we are the number 61 podcast in Singapore for TV reviews.
Yeah.
So you guys were killing it out there.
And I think that might have even only been for the first.
Maybe just for
First
episode
week.
1.
Yeah, the first. I mean, the very first episode did on its own like 160 down. I mean, whatever, But still, it was very cool. I just love that anyone's listening. I think it's just incredible to see that, and I need to stop looking at it every day, every 30 minutes.
I check out every day. Yeah. But hey, for those of y'all that are our listeners, our weekly listeners, like hit us up. We want to hear your feedback. We want to hear what if you like a segment, you think we're missing a segment, like let us know and
Please
we'll
do.
expand on those ideas, make it better. We wanted it to be all about you guys and all about the audience and not being boring. We want to capture you guys for the whole entire show.
Yeah, I'll look into getting a Gmail account for like specific words. What are words? Do we do a podcast that rely on me being able to say words?
Being able to talk into a microphone?
Specifically for like listener emails.
Yeah.
We'll have an email account for that. Y'all, please like rate and review us. Apple Podcasts would be so helpful if you could do that. Also, if you want to follow us on Instagram, Never Ending Adventure Podcast, TikTok at Never Ending Adventure Cast. TikTok is lit.
Lit.
Liddy.
You're not Gen Z enough to say that.
No cap. TikTok is
No cap.
super fly, super lit. Twitter at NEA_podcast. Don't follow us there, but you can. I've been Russell Tyndall.
And I've been DJ Netty P.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Love that you guys.
All right. Bye.